Hello and welcome to this new blog post from the Sustainability Accounting series. As usual, our disclaimer here. And today I would like to introduce you to the operational budgeting process where we try to incorporate sustainability factors. And there are different approaches or techniques that are available how to integrate these sustainability things. If we start in the upper left hand corner, you see ring fencing, then there's B, allocation, then C, capital budgeting, and D, shadow pricing. And we will have a look at these four different techniques as we go through this blog post. So let's get started with the ring fencing one. And ring fencing in this context basically means that you set some money aside for sustainability related initiatives. Yeah? The allocation on the right hand side is more a kind of traditional allocation approach. Some examples that I found are actually from some companies like Bupa or SSE. And these companies, they basically set aside a special amount, either an amount X that is then distributed to the different departments, divisions in a company, where they can then, basically apply for the money they want, and a kind of gremium decides what they get. And the other example from SSE is where this company basically says, okay, for every megawatt installed electricity capacity, we give 5,000 British pound to local communities. So that's the idea of ring fencing. Yeah? But then, of course, the question is, okay, you have these funds, but how do you allocate it to the different departments, divisions, whatever you have? And when it comes to this problem, then you quickly come to the point where you say, okay, we need to allocate it somehow. And that's why I consider these two approaches together. So ring fencing and allocation, that's the first approach that I will cover. The other approaches is capital budgeting, where capital does not mean capital expenditure or investment, but it's more like natural human social capital and everything that you can express in non-monetary terms. So as an example, when we talk about capital budgeting in this context here, we refer to water budgets, electricity budgets, and so on. But as you know from the previous posts, you need to monetize these things somehow. Yeah? So what you often need is a kind of shadow price if there's no market price available. And that's also why I say, okay, let's have a look at these two approaches together. Yeah? And to keep this within a reasonable time frame, I decided to make two blog posts out of it. So first, in this post, we will have a look at ring fencing and allocation. In the next blog post, we will have a look at capital budgeting and shadow pricing. Okay, so let's get started with the first approach, ring fencing and allocations. So what did I do in Dynamics to get these approaches built in? So first of all, I make use of budget planning. And for budget planning, I said, okay, I have a finance department, and this finance department does not get any funds. It's just a kind of administrative section in my example here that is just overseeing and processing the whole process. And I have three departments, IT, HR, and legal, and they get the funds. And the way how I'm doing that is basically I say, okay, I have previous year actuals. O stands for operational, and then we have here previous year actual. So I start in my budget planning process with the amounts that I posted on, here's some accounts and here are my departments. So I start from historical data. And then I just define a budget based on some growth rates or something. Where I say, okay, for example, historically I spent 7,000, but this year you spend 5 or 10% more. For the special budget fund, I'm doing something different, and I say, okay, I have a fund of 20,000. And this fund is sitting in Department 24, which is the finance department that oversees the whole process. And then we want to distribute it somehow. And here you see basically what happens when we go through the workflow for this process. So each department, IT, HR, and legal, they get the previous year actual times a growth rate. So this is a kind of traditional budgeting. So here, let's say if we are in HR, last year they spent 6,000, this year they spent 6,300, which is basically 5% more. And the same applies here for legal. And then on the other hand side, we have here this special budget fund that I distribute to IT, HR, and to here legal based on an allocation rule. I say, okay, IT, HR, and legal, they have a number of people. And based on this number of people, I give them a fraction of the 20,000. That's just an example. But I say, okay, this is the fund that I have available, but I do not want to give it to these departments easily. So what I said is, from this 5,300 here in this example for the IT department, I give 1,300 to IT so that they can run some initiatives for sustainability. Put in some energy saving lights or servers or something. But if they want to have more, or if they want to have this amount, then they have to apply for it. So what I want to do is, with this allocation of the special fund, I want to kind of competition among the different departments that I have. Okay, then next step is, of course, that these budgets are then aggregated and then approved basically by a management board or by finance, and finally transferred into budget register entries. And these budget register entries, they are important because these are the ones that I can implement with my budget control. So later on I can say, okay, here for this ordinary budget, for this normal budget, I have 18,900 here. So nobody is allowed to spend more than that. And if you want to spend more, then the process is stopped. Somebody has to apply. This can be all incorporated in the budget control, which we do not cover today, but that's basically, or what I show you in the following is basically the preparation for this budget control. Okay, but now enough talking. Let's have a look at my demo system and how this is working. Okay, so I'm logged into my DEMF demo company, and what I'm showing you in the following is just how this process works and how easy it is basically to get these things incorporated. So let me exclude my previous transactions and everything that has been recorded before, and start here with a new budget plan. The budget plan is the one that I have here for my operating process, and I call it operating budget English demo. Okay, then I create it, and the first thing that you have to do is you basically need to create the initial lines for the previous year actuals. And the way how you can do that is either manually, that's what I will do in the following, or you can use a function where you create something from GL transactions or other records in your system. So let's quickly record something simple here. And these are my previous year amounts. So let's record the last line here. So this one would be basically my previous year actuals, or it can be a previous year budget, whatever you have. And based on that, I want to allocate some budget amounts based on that. And in my case, I increase it by 5 or 10%. But now I have this special fund, and this is basically the ring fencing approach that I want to incorporate here. And let's say, okay, here we have 20,000. Yeah. And this fund will then be distributed in the next step by an allocation that is made to these departments. And then it will be assigned to a special budget where the people can apply for it. So let's see how this works. So I submit and start this process basically. And now if we refresh that, we should see the one that has been created. So this one is in review, is in the first stage. Later I will show you the different stages and how this is completely set up. And one of the first steps is that the different plans for the departments, so IT, HR, and legal, will be created. So that's what you see here. So what happens if we refresh this once again? See if we can see that. Yeah, so we can see what happened. What happened at this stage is that the special fund, you remember the 20,000 that was assigned to Department 24, it was assigned or allocated to, let's sort it a bit better, to Department 27, 26, and 25 based on the head count. So I just said, okay, that's the head count. You can use any other rule. You can even assign this manually. It's up to you. But I want to have it easy and simple. And what happens then is the different departments. So here is IT, HR, legal. They get these jobs assigned. And what they see is the following. So here's their normal budget. So last year they spent 7,000. This year 10%, 5% more gives this. If they do not like it, okay, they can apply for more, let's say 7,500. And the same they can do for this special fund. They can say, okay, actually, based on the number of people, I should be able to spend 1,300. But this finance guy, this one gave me only 300. But that's something I do not like. So let's say I want to have 2,000 because I might have a special sustainability project in mind that I want to realize. So I need 2,000. And to give a justification for that amount, you can here make use of this justification functionality, which basically downloads a file, and then it connects to this machine, so you can enable the editing. And here in the table, if you connect to Dynamics through this connection here, then you see the different elements, and you can enter a justification here. Yeah, I need this money for whatever. You can save that and then upload it once again. So you say here, I attach a justification, browse for this thing, so that later on the gremium that decides about the money that the different departments get, they get an idea. Why do you need more than what we actually planned for you? Okay, but that's in my process, that's the end of this department head job. So he basically completes his workflow. And in HR and IT, we are doing the same. So here they can say, okay, I want to have not 3,000, but 5,000. And here I want to have 6,500. And then I say, I'm finished. And the same can be done here for IT. And of course, in reality, you would have more than a single account. And people would have to enter and get a justification of their numbers here. But I think you get the idea what this process looks like and how it can be designed based on the normal budget, which is based on these accounts, and then the special budget fund or the ring fencing budget that is incorporated by this special main account. So once we are here, let's wait until this process is finished. So once these elements are, or these workflow steps are completed, then the next step would be that finance confirms, or a finance user confirms that all these sub workflows are completed. That's done by this step review associate budget plans. And that's a workflow element that you can have. So somebody must say, okay, all of these budget plans are completed. And what can happen then is we can aggregate them. So in the next step, the next steps will basically go to a new planning stage where the different elements will be aggregated. Then finance can have another look and give it to the manager for approval. And then we can transfer these amounts into our budget register entries. So let's wait here a bit until this finishes and completes. Should not take too long. Yeah, so now we are in stage 7, where the amounts are basically aggregated. And then we have the final check and approval. So basically finance people could still go here and say, okay, hey, here department 25, they ask for 5,000. They ask for this and they ask for this. I don't like it, so I give them maybe this one 4,000. But their idea is better, so they get 12,000. Yeah, and all of this is just the configuration. So you can basically decide whether these amounts can be edited at which stage and what happens. And I said, just for reasons of simplicity, that everything can be edited by finance at the end of the day, so that we can do some playing with the data. So let's wait until this is finished. So this is now finished. Our filter does not give us anything. So we clear this one. Everything is approved. And this is our budget plan, the completed one. It takes a while until the data becomes visible. So let's refresh this one. And then see how data looks like. Yeah, so that's now the final result. Our budget is basically complete, it's approved. And what we can do next is we can take these budgets, these normal budget funds and these special budget funds, and transfer them to budget register entries. So let's start with the special budget. And I say I transfer it with this special budget code into this budget model for next year. So generate, and I'm doing the same for the normal budget. So this is the normal budget fund, and this is transferred into this budget code. So let's say generate. And once that is completed, we should see in the budget register entries here the special budget and here the normal budget with the amounts that we just approved. And once you say update budget balances, then you basically fix these amounts, then nobody can change the status anymore, because currently it's still in a draft state, where you can basically delete things again and then revise it. But once this is updated, it's then kind of fixed, and we can use it for budget control to really check the amounts that have been budgeted. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you. Now let me go back to my PowerPoint where I want to show you how this is configured. Okay, so after this short demo, let us have a look at how I did the setup. And to guide you through that, I was listing the steps here on the side. And the first thing that I configured was this budget plan hierarchy with the finance department on top that does not get any funds associated. So it's just an administrative department that is leading the process, and IT, HR, and legal below. Then I have a single budget cycle, and I said, okay, just 1 year, 2021. I have one budget model that I called operational budget model for next year. And I have these 2 budget codes. That's what we saw. Now the scenarios, that's also what you saw when we entered the data. So I started here with the previous year actuals that were then transferred and multiplied by, or increased by 5% and transferred into the budget. And I had the special fund that was then allocated and distributed to the departments, and finally ended up here in this special budget. Here are the 8 stages that I used, and I will come back to them in step 10, where you can see how this works together. Then I have here a special ledger account that I call special budget fund. That's important because you need to record this on an element in the budget plan. And of course, to be able to record it, you need to include it in the accounting structures. Last thing is the ledger allocation rule, where I explained you that for the special budget fund, I said, okay, I use the allocation method fixed weight, basically representing the number of employees working in the different departments, to allocate this special budget fund from finance to the others. And that's basically the key here, where you can see the whole process. So let's get started on top. On top, you can see here in dark blue the workflow stages. The workflow, I have 2 workflows, a blue one and a yellow one. And the blue one is basically the top workflow that starts in the initial creation phase. Then we have stage 2, where we allocate things, then we distribute things, and then we jump to this stage by this stage transition rule. So we jump from here to there, then we aggregate things, and then we do a review, and then things are completed. Yeah? And here are the different steps. So first of all, we activate the department plans. Then there's an initial preparation where finance probably has a look at the previous year actuals, adjusts something, yeah, and then does a stage allocation. And then in the second stage, we allocate the special fund based on the ledger allocation rule. And this allocation is done by this allocation schedule. So we allocate something from special fund to special fund. Yeah? That's the scenario. And then we use this allocation rule. Once that is done, we move to this distribution stage where we distribute the amounts. And these are the allocation schedules. I use 4: previous year actual, budget, special fund, and special budget, and use these methods to distribute the amounts. Once this is done, we go to the workflow of the department, where they can review, adjust things, and then do a stage transition to this one. Then the next step is this department workflow is complete. So we jump back to the blue workflow, where a finance person basically just tells, okay, all of the departments are finished with their job. We aggregate them, we review things, and then we are completed. Okay, I already did the demo. So what is the summary? Well, ring fencing and the allocation method, these techniques can be incorporated in the standard application without any special things. So that's what we have available. You have to tweak around a bit with this special budget, yeah, where we need a special statistical account basically. But I think that the steps and the configuration is pretty straightforward and similar to what you might already use. So what is next? In the next blog post, we will have a look at capital budgeting and shadow pricing and how we can incorporate that as an alternative to what I showed you right now. Okay, but for today, that's all what I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much for your attention, and then looking forward to seeing you in the next blog post.